Anita, did you hear about this? A Denver elementary school hosting a Black Lives Matter event for kindergarten and first grade students, in part teaching them to reject the nuclear family. Here to react, Nicole Neily, president of Parents Defending Education. Nicole, great to see you. So instead of math and science, you know, the stuff that we learned when we were in school and the stuff that you're supposed to learn, here's what the kids are going to be learning this week instead. These are principles that are being used for the BLM teaching event. Restorative justice, transgender affirming, queer affirming, and black villages. We'll get to black villages in a moment, but how is any of this appropriate in any school, much less for kindergarten and first grade students?
Yeah, this is Black Lives Week of Action in schools. And so this is one of dozens of schools across the country that will be doing this instead of, as you pointed out, the things that we expect our children to be learning. Centennial Elementary, where this is taking place, only 31% of students score at or above proficiency in math and reading. Our children have a finite number of hours in the day. And so every hour that they spend, working on these principles is one where they're not making up the significant learning loss that has happened over the past 2 years. Our children deserve better.
As for this concept of black villages, here's exactly what it says it is. Quote, the disruption of the Western nuclear family dynamics. Nicole, why would anyone want to disrupt the nuclear family?
That's a great question. Why would anybody need to really get into issues of race with school? The school actually put out a statement that said there are studies showing that children have internalized bias beginning ages 2 to 4. And so that's why they feel that they need to shove these things down our children's throats. These are issues that, parents should be deciding, families should be deciding, because this is not what we send our children to school to learn. Issues of transgenderism, these are very sensitive topics that a lot of people feel very strongly about. And it's not something that we want our children, who are, let's remember, kindergarten, first grade, these are 5, 6, 7-year-olds who still believe in the tooth fairy. And so this is very objectionable, I think, on a lot of levels.
This is unbelievable. And the fact that we've gotten here, you mentioned as young as 2-year-old in some instances. My kid's not even 2. But keep in mind, like, she plays with egg cartons and thinks that that's a toy. So this isn't somebody who I think is getting bias seeped into her. But again, this is what our schools are teaching us. Want to get your thoughts from kindergarten and first grade to university. Colorado State University offering 17, not 1, not 2, but 17 different campus resources to help students, quote, affected by a free speech event. Let me read this to you. Here are the things that are being offered to these students. Office of Equal Opportunity, multicultural counseling, incidents of bias reporting, and I love this last one, Nicole, Victims Assistance Hotline. What kind of weak adults are we creating if we think we need a victims assistance hotline for students who are subjected to free speech, Nicole?
It's deeply concerning. I used to run an organization called Speech First that sued universities over violating students' First Amendment rights. And what worries me at a program like this is that it encourages students. It gives them, it tells them you are fragile. You need to be worried about things like that, rather than teaching students how to be resilient, how to deal with the real world. You will work with, you will get to know, you will meet people in the course of your life with whom you disagree. Do you deal with that constructively, or do you go curl up in a corner and cry? And for this, a university to be using its finite resources to be encouraging students to view every human interaction as a microaggression, I think, is really, really dangerous for a society, because I don't want to work with those people. I don't want to hire those people. And I don't want my children, eventually dating and marrying people who view the world that way.
But Nicole, the question I always come back to, why? Why is this happening?
It's a great question. I think this has been going on for a long time. This is part of participation trophy culture. But we have to realize that, the real world is tough, and we need to prepare our children to deal with the real world, and be realistic about it, to be resilient and to be tough and to get back up when they meet someone, because God forbid some of these students actually, maybe have their mind changed by someone who they disagree with, or maybe they change somebody else's. But this is not an adversarial relationship. And I think Colorado State University is setting students up for failure by teaching them these lessons.
Couldn't agree with you more. Nicole Neily, we appreciate your time and insight. Thank you so very much. Anita, over to you.